The criminal retrial against former Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein has wrapped up, but not without its own unscripted drama. While a jury convicted Weinstein on one count of sexual assault, it acquitted him of a second count. And today, the judge declared a mistrial on a third charge after the jury deliberations reportedly escalated into yelling and threats. The jury foreman reporting to the judge that he refused to reconvene with the other jurors because he felt bullied and unsafe. Two of Weinstein's charges stem from incidents back in 2006. He was ultimately found guilty of forcing oral sex on his production assistant, Miriam Haley, but he was acquitted of the same charge in regards to former model Kaja Sokola. A new trial date will be set for the remaining charge that the jury was deadlocked on. It involves the alleged third-degree rape of an aspiring actress back in 2013. Weinstein faces up to 25 years in prison on the one charge that the jury has already convicted him of. Joining us tonight is Kaja Sokola and her attorney, Lindsay Goldbrum. Thank you both so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. So, Kaja, let me start with you. The jury found Harvey Weinstein not guilty on the charge concerning you. Now, you've said that there's no win or lose for you in the case. Were you surprised by their verdict?
Honestly, I was surprised. I was surprised when I was on the stand and I've learned that my sister was collaborating with Harvey Weinstein's defense team. It wasn't, we have a whole history, but I think that this was the hardest part of the trial, to be honest. I've said everything that have happened to me, and then each and every one of the jurors have their own personal background stories and point of views, and it is what it is. But in general, I'm really happy that we reached this verdict because it really was a team effort. It was a teamwork, and there were so many people involved in trying to put it together and prove once again that this man is a rapist.
Mm. Now, and just so people understand, when you referred to your sister was called as a prosecution witness as well, and she was supposed to corroborate something that you told her about this. Were you surprised by what she ended up saying on the stand?
I'm not sure. I haven't been there when she was testifying, but I've learned that she, without my permission, took my private journal and handed over to the defense. Mm. And honestly, Lori, that was the hardest point of this trial. Because I know what happened to me when it comes to Harvey. And I've been, gaslighted before in my life. I've been put in a position where people are trying to make me believe something that wasn't true. And that's all fine. But to have this kind of a thing, it's a whole different story. So that was the hardest part.
Mm. Kaja, most people will never understand just how stressful it is, right, to go through a trial like that. What was it like for you to have to testify about all of this in front of the jury and also in front of Weinstein himself?
To be very honest, it was relieving in some way. And just sharing my story, right now I'm a 39-year-old woman. I've lived through all of that. I hope I would never allow things like this happen to me right now. But my voice is for these young women or younger women that suffered or are still holding up to relationships, whether it's domestic abuse, domestic violence, or sexual abuse, and they're afraid to step forward. So I hope that my testimony and me speaking about this right now and saying that it's worth it, no matter the outcome in a criminal court, it's worth to talking about this, because the most important thing is to be safe, to be happy, and obviously not to do things that we don't want to do. No is a full sentence. Mm. When a woman says no, when someone says no, that's a full sentence. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Lindsay, let me talk to you for a minute. You were also a former prosecutor, so you understand these cases really well. What do you think happened here with this split jury verdict?
Absolutely. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is an incredibly difficult standard to meet. And as a former prosecutor, I knew that going in, and Kaja, I made sure, knew that as well. It was going to be an uphill battle to prove proof beyond a reasonable doubt for a crime that happened 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, she's proud for what she's done, and I'm proud of her, because sexual assaults, less than 1% of them result in incarceration. That is a staggering statistic, but it's so important that people feel comfortable coming forward and sharing their stories. And I think Kaja is an inspiration for survivors everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, it is actually quite stunning when you think about, compared to where society was back in 2020, when Weinstein's first New York trial happened. It was really right in the height of awareness for the Me Too movement. It seems like we're in a very different place now as things have kind of evolved. Kaja, what do you think that this verdict tells us about where we are with the Me Too movement?
I hope that the Me Too, well, first of all, Me Too movement has like two legs, let's say. One is what survivors are thinking and victims are thinking. And I hope that this moment and me speaking about this can encourage them and make the Me Too movement even stronger. But for us as a society in general, I think it means that we still don't fully understand how the dynamics work. There are many questions that still are being answered not in the right way. For example, why the victim stayed in touch? Can a husband rape a wife? And there are many questions like that. So I think that there's a lot of progress for us to still do. But I hope that for the victims, me talking about this as a person who was in the trial and he was not found guilty on my account, and still I'm saying, do it, it's worth it, share it, is a big step forward for Me Too.
That's a really important message. You know, Lyndsay, this time around, Harvey Weinstein, he was even giving interviews from prison, right? Sort of doing his own PR campaign. And he was saying, like he always has, that it was all consensual. And this time around, some high-profile voices on social media were actually taking his side. Do you think that the Me Too movement is moving forward, or do you think it's sliding back?
So I represented a woman that testified in his first New York criminal trial. And so there is definitely a difference in how we are handling survivors of sexual assault now versus in 2020. But I think Kaja's exactly right. There's still a long way to go with respect to a cultural understanding of survivors of sexual assault and how individuals can react to trauma. But at the same time, I do think that there's been progress made. And I do think that the Me Too movement is going forward. And I do think that voices like Kaja's are going to be incredibly important for that to move on. With respect to Harvey Weinstein's statements, he was previously convicted twice in front of a jury, having never took the stand. And so I think to a certain extent, there may have been an attempt on his part to get his voice out there in the hopes that it would impact the way that the jury found this time. But at the end of the day, he's still in jail. He was still convicted. And I think that that shows us that there is still Me Too movement, regardless of the fact that we need to continue moving it forward.
You know, Lyndsay, speaking of the importance of Kaja's testimony, do you think that having her testify in this trial helped get that guilty verdict on Miriam Haley's charge?
Absolutely. The three women all come together in an effort to explain not only what happened to them, but I think that it helps individuals understand that this is not an isolated incident. And while these women each had their own stories and there were own charges, I think that they supported one another. And had Kaja not testified, it's definitely possible that there would not have been any conviction at all. And so I think that what Kaja did was incredibly important.
You know, Kaja, you have shared with us such a strong message for other women of standing up for themselves. Tell us how you're moving forward now that this part of your life is done.
I'm so glad that it's over, actually. But I have a production company, film production company. I am, right now we're shooting my first movie, which is called Eden Express. And it's going to be a beautiful piece that's touching on mental health issues. I have another project in development. I have a literary agent with whom I'm working on a book about overcoming trauma. And this will be something that talks about experience that I got from my patients and my own experience. So I have things, to work on. And for sure, summer and vacation for my son and me will be exciting as well. But this trial was like a curtain going down for what happened in the past and being able to move forward. So that's also important for me.
Well, it sounds like you've done so much to help women, and you continue to do so. We wish you all the best. Kaja and Lyndsay, thank you so much for both of you for your time tonight and for sharing your perspective with us on this.
Thank you so much.